The story commences within the confines of an advanced penitentiary, where a pioneering experiment involving research chemicals is underway. The participants, who are technically incarcerated individuals under the jurisdiction of the state, have willingly volunteered for this endeavor in hopes of reducing their sentences. The driving force behind this program is Steve Abnesti, a compassionate and genial figure, alongside his assistant Mark. The narrative then introduces us to Ray, an individual who has eagerly embraced the role of a subject in a specific study. A curious phenomenon unfolds as Ray finds himself unable to contain fits of laughter. Even when exposed to a somber joke and later informed about one of history's gravest tragedies, his laughter remains unceasing. Steve observes this with an approving smile, realizing that their experiment has achieved success. The following day, Steve's trajectory takes him to the Spiderhead Research Center. In transitioning scenes, we find ourselves on a boat where a blindfolded man named Jeff is situated between the two scientists. A subsequent shift reveals Jeff in a kitchen, accompanied by a woman with whom he exhibits familiarity. Both characters possess criminal backgrounds, having committed disparate offenses. Jeff's behavior takes on an idiosyncratic hue, marked by altered speech patterns and perspectives, indicative of chemical influence. Steve remains a constant presence, meticulously studying Jeff's every movement and uttered word. A factory garners Jeff's affectionate gaze, evoking his delight. Subsequently, as Jeff occupies his chamber, recollections of his bygone days of freedom surface, memories of joyous partying with a former girlfriend. These reflections are juxtaposed with a pivotal moment when a reckless accident altered his life's course. Returning to the laboratory, Jeff becomes the focus once again as he prepares for an interview. A woman of captivating allure enters and takes her place opposite him, rendering him entranced. As questions arise, Jeff assigns the woman an attractiveness rating of 8 out of 10, only to receive a modest rating of less than 5 in return. The revelation emerges that they have been exposed to a love-inducing substance. This chemical interplay provokes an array of emotions, reflected in their altered body language that oscillates between discomfort and undue comfort. Unrestrained intimacy blooms between them, and their actions are no longer subject to volition. The effects of the love-inducing drug eventually wane, ushering in a phase of intrigue for the observing scientist. Steve's interest lies in assessing whether their amorous behavior endures beyond the chemical influence. In the days that follow, the two subjects' interactions remain consistent, much to Steve's observations. However, as time elapses, the intensity of their romantic fascination dwindles. Thus, an opportune moment presents itself for another experiment. Steve surreptitiously modifies Jeff's Moby Pack and cautions against permitting anyone else to handle it, hinting at potential repercussions. The ensuing trial introduces Sarah, an older woman, into the equation. She, too, has been administered the same dose as Jeff and the prior participant. Following a conversation with Sarah, Jeff succumbs to temptation once more, forging a connection with her. This marks the culmination of his involvement with two different women under the influence of the love-inducing drug. Steve positions himself beside Jeff, prepared to glean insights from this development. He tantalizingly proposes administering Darkenflox to one of the women Jeff engaged with, leaving its nature shrouded in mystery, to be unveiled in due course. However, Jeff's discernment in selecting a partner is quite meticulous. Subsequently, new information emerges, shedding light on the nature of the substance administered to the subjects, referred to as N40, an element with the potential to dramatically reshape the world. The intention behind its employment revolves around inducing profound affection between individuals. As Jeff prepares to depart after the conversation, Steve probes him about his genuine desires, but before Jeff can articulate an answer, the scene transitions. Previously, we discussed Jeff's inebriation and recklessness behind the wheel, which ultimately led to a tragic accident claiming the life of one of his friends. Expanding on this, it is revealed that Jeff's profound longing is to turn back time and rectify the events of that fateful night. Subsequently, we find Jeff in a more relaxed setting within the facility, interrupted by a guard who hands him a phone, through which a poignant voicemail from his parents plays. In the recording, Jeff's father imparts that this will be his final voicemail. As the holiday season approaches, Jeff anticipates Christmas in the company of Lizzy, leading to an early celebration. However, the narrative pivots once again, placing Jeff back in the familiar chair, but this time, he faces a formidable individual. Jeff's irritation is palpable, prompting him to distance himself from this man. Exiting the room, Jeff learns that Sarah is undergoing the same line of questioning. Overcome by frustration, he vents his anger, only for Steve to interject, explaining that their existence within this environment is significantly more bearable than their potential reality within actual prisons. Acknowledging Steve's point, Jeff extends an apology and aligns with the doctor's perspective. That evening, a transformation becomes evident in Steve's behavior. He engages in spontaneous nighttime dancing, a clear indication that he has also ingested the N40 substance. The subsequent day, Jeff confides in Lizzy about the Darkenflox, describing the excruciating sensations it induces, even surpassing the intensity of the fire. Jeff's interactions and dialogue with Lizzy suggest a burgeoning attraction towards her. Meanwhile, Steve directs his assistant to administer a double dose of one of the drugs, despite cautionary advice. In the interim, Jeff arrives at the location, whereupon Steve once again broaches the topic of the women. He inquires whether administering Darkenflox to them would be advisable. Jeff, however, reiterates his lack of emotional attachment towards these women. Despite this, they decide to proceed and administer a dose of Darkenflox to Heather. Steve closely observes her behavior, witnessing her display what appears to be an agitated state. Heather's actions become increasingly frenetic, preventing her from remaining still. Her mental state appears to be in turmoil, a situation exacerbated by the effects of Darkenflox. The situation takes a perilous turn as Heather's condition deteriorates progressively. She resorts to physically harming herself, banging her head against the wall and hurling objects recklessly. The impact of her head hitting the wall worsens matters, causing an excessive surge of Darkenflox within her system. Tragically, under the influence of Darkenflox and after damaging her MobiPad, the device responsible for administering the substances, Heather takes her own life. This devastating incident shatters Mark's confidence in their work within the facility, leaving Steve in a state of shock. Acting hastily, Steve rushes out of the projection room, accidentally dropping his keys in the process. Seizing the opportunity, Jeff uses Steve's keys to access his desk compartment, discovering a startling revelation. There are no external authorities overseeing the facility. It is under the control of Abnesti Pharmaceuticals. The names assigned to the drugs are merely derived from a bingo card, an arbitrary classification. To Jeff's dismay, he learns that Steve's intentions extend beyond administering love-inducing drugs. In reality, Steve has elaborate plans for a series of extensive experiments on the subjects. Meanwhile, a sense of unease begins to gnaw at Steve. He hurries back to Jeff's location, but Jeff manages to discreetly return the key to its original position in the nick of time. In a desperate plea, Steve implores Jeff to maintain secrecy regarding the tragic turn of events. The looming threat is that disclosing this incident could lead to the facility's closure by authorities. Although shaken and deeply affected by recent events, Jeff finds a modicum of solace in Steve's assertion that their experiments are intended to benefit humanity as a whole. Gradually, Jeff's emotional state stabilizes, and a scene unfolds where he and Steve share lighthearted anecdotes from their shared history, sharing hearty laughter. However, unveiled that their mirth is catalyzed by a substance-inducing laughter, revealing that even their apparent camaraderie is influenced by their experiments. In the evolving story, our focus shifts to Steve's actions as he transfers the mysterious substance known as Darkenflox to Lizzy. This leads to a dramatic change in Lizzy's behavior, as she becomes increasingly erratic and develops an irrational fear of seemingly harmless objects, such as a staple. Steve, the observer, seems to take disturbing satisfaction in witnessing her distress, revealing a twisted aspect of his character. Amidst Lizzy's emotional turmoil, an unexpected bond forms between her and Jeff. As they spend more time together, their emotional connection deepens. Jeff eventually confides in Lizzy about a haunting secret. He was responsible not only for a fatal car accident that took his friend's life but also that of his own girlfriend. This revelation brings them closer as Lizzy empathizes with Jeff, sharing their mutual experiences of pain and loss. Over time, their interactions grow into something profound, and the seeds of love appear to take root. Within this complex network of relationships, Steve's keen observations don't go unnoticed. He notices Jeff's growing affection for Lizzy, adding a layer of complexity to the already intricate dynamics in their confined setting. As tensions rise, Mark, another player in this intricate tale, begins to question Steve's true motives. His unease reaches a breaking point during a confrontation with Jeff, leading to a moment of emotional breakdown that exposes the elaborate web of deception woven by Steve. As the story progresses, a pivotal moment arrives. Steve reveals his plan to administer Darkenflox to Lizzy, triggering a furious response from Jeff. Jeff strongly objects and demands Steve to stop the process. Steve, seemingly agreeing, suggests a fresh start at the lab the next day. This sequence of events prompts Mark to confess a wealth of information to Jeff, unveiling Steve's intentions and schemes. Mark's confession acts as a catalyst for his own realization of the gravity of his involvement. The following morning, Jeff and Steve find themselves back in the lab, a confrontation looming. In a surprising turn, Jeff gains control of Steve's MobiPack, a tool for manipulation, and forces Steve to reveal the true purpose of the program. It becomes evident that the substances tested were secondary to the main goal of evaluating the obedience-inducing drug, B6. Essentially, the inmate's compliance had been coerced through this insidious substance. This revelation exposes the extent of manipulation, leaving both characters and readers grappling with its weight. As the tension escalates, Jeff compels Steve to release Lizzy and unveil the master plan. However, the situation intensifies into a struggle for control, resulting in dark influx being unleashed on Lizzy. Amid the ensuing chaos, Jeff tries desperately to save Lizzy from the effects of the substance. In the midst of this chaos, Steve's determination to maintain control falters, leading to a physical confrontation that damages his MobiPack. In a heart-pounding climax, Jeff emerges victorious, rescuing Lizzy and confessing his love for her. Nonetheless, a resolution remains elusive as Steve refuses to let go, setting the stage for a final confrontation with grave consequences. Driven by his altered state, Steve's pursuit culminates in a devastating crash, the result of his own arrogance. Amidst the turmoil, Jeff and Lizzy seize an opportunity to escape their confining environment, racing against time to find safety. The narrative threads converge in a thrilling conclusion as the island becomes a battleground between justice and escape, the past and the future, and manipulation and genuine connection. The story ends with a sense of liberation, as Jeff and Lizzy embark on a journey to find healing and solace, leaving behind the shattered remains of Spiderhead and its tragic experiments.